How can something as mundane as toothpaste be used to show the incoherence of the unbeliever's worldview? In the biblical apologetic, all things testify of God, even toothpaste. The unbeliever will pick up the toothpaste tube and squeeze it. What does he expect to happen? Well, he expects toothpaste to squirt out. Now, why does the unbeliever expect toothpaste to come out? Consider the following interaction between a Christian and an unbeliever on this subject. The Christian says, "Why do you expect toothpaste to come out?" To which the unbeliever responds, "Because of past experience. I've had plenty of experiences of toothpaste coming out when I squeeze the toothpaste tube." Is it true that we expect the toothpaste to come out simply because of experience of it in the past? To summarize, when an unbeliever wakes up in the morning and walks into the bathroom and reaches for the toothpaste tube, he expects that in a second or two, toothpaste will squirt out of the tube. Why does he believe that the future will have this sort of event? He will reply, "Because in the past, when I squeezed the tube, toothpaste came out." What the unbeliever is saying is that because it has happened this way in the past, we know it will happen this way in the future. The problem with this sort of reasoning is that it leaves a gap. The gap being, how do we get from past experience to future experience? Why should we expect that what will happen right now will be like the way it was in the past? So the unbeliever has been saying, "I know the toothpaste will come out the next time I squeeze the tube because it has always worked that way." This is akin to saying that he believes that this doesn't just happen in the past, but believes that the future will be like the past, and believes that there is uniformity in the natural world. In order for the unbeliever to brush his teeth, he must already believe something about the nature of reality, which is that there is continuity about the way things happen in the past and in the future. A few things can be noticed right away. The unbeliever has not experienced everything about the nature of reality and therefore cannot make this kind of universal judgment. The unbeliever hasn't experienced the future, so he can't make any judgment about it. Despite all of this, the unbeliever still operates in the manner of believing the future will be like the past. The unbeliever continues to say that we know the future will be like the past because it has always been like that in the past. The Christian would respond that the mistake that the unbeliever is making is that they are begging the question. The issue has to do with whether or not the future will resemble things that have happened in the past. The only response we've been given is, in the past, the future has always been like the past. But this doesn't answer the question because we want to know if the future will be like the past. As Dr. Greg Bonson put it, in the past, the future has always been like the past. Past futures have resembled past past, so that now the future will be like the past. Will our present futures be like our present past? If in our past, the future has always been like the past. The unbeliever will take a slightly different approach in saying that we can't be sure, but it is very probable that the future will be like the past. To which the Christian would respond, "Again, this is missing the point because we are not talking about certainty regarding the future being like the past. We are asking whether they even have any basis for thinking it will probably be like the past. Nature must be uniform as opposed to be giving the appearance of being uniform in order to even make their statement." The unbeliever has no way of providing this distinction. Could nature be random and as a result of high improbabilities been giving the nature the appearance of being uniform and is not actually uniform? If it could, then the unbeliever has begged the question by appealing to probability, because in arguing for uniformity of nature, that the future will be like the past, they have assumed the uniformity of nature in arguing inductively based off of past experience. Therefore, the unbeliever has assumed the uniformity of nature in order to argue for the uniformity of nature. We know this because induction itself, which is the basis for their probabilistic assessment, assumes the uniformity of nature. The point remains the same, that the unbeliever assumes and insists upon the uniformity of nature. The Christian, however, has a meaningful basis for the inductive principle, the uniformity of nature, and for believing that toothpaste will actually come out of the tube. Keith Thompson of Reformed Apologetics Ministries has stated that Christianity accounts for uniformity of nature by appealing to God's sovereignty and provision, and explains the reason that all men assume uniformity day to day without worrying that reality will spiral into chaos is because all men know and depend on God as the sustainer deep down. So Christianity accounts for the uniformity of nature and the inductive principle in relation to the future because God is not only the creator of the universe, but also the sustainer of his universe. For by him all things were created, both in the heavens and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Not only does the Bible teach that in him all things hold together, but it says that God upholds all things by the word of his power. The Christian God, the only God, has assured us that it will continue to be this way. Thus says the Lord, who gives the sun for light by day, and the fixed order of the moon and the stars for light by night, who stirs up the sea so that its waves roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If this fixed order departs from before me, declares the Lord, then the offspring of Israel also will cease from being a nation before me forever. That is how the Christian worldview, and the Christian worldview alone, accounts for science and the inductive principle. This argument is not to be made only against the atheists, but to be made against every non-Christian worldview. For all non-Christian worldviews will be arbitrary or inconsistent at one point or another because they belong to the theme of autonomy. These worldviews are simply variations of a theme, the non-Christian theme, which says that you can account for human experience apart from the Christian God. By virtue of belonging to this non-Christian theme, they will necessarily fail at one point or another. The failure of the other worldviews will be clearly laid out in another video. If you would like to learn about the gospel and God's plan to save his elect from eternal damnation, then go to readytoreason.com/gospel.